What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Stochastic Best Ball channel. I am Matt Savoca, and I'm here with Nick Lepri, and we are breaking down quarterbacks today. Top quarterbacks, mid-range quarterbacks, late-round quarterbacks. We got you covered with all of our favorites in every single relevant category. Very excited to break this one down. Nick Lepri's here. Follow him at Notorious FNTSY. How are you today, Nick?
I'm doing great this morning, and I'm very excited to talk about these quarterbacks yet again. Things have kind of changed since we've last talked about the quarterback, so pretty interested to see how your mind has moved as well. Same with mine,
Yeah,
obviously.
absolutely. And we were talking about it from a fantasy football perspective over on the Stochastic Fantasy channel earlier this summer. In the best ball spots, there are a lot of fluctuations. The top five is really fascinating this year. And obviously, the scoring changes, the way that you play best ball does affect how we draft quarterback a little bit, but I'm excited as well to dig in. So let's start with our first category here, especially in best ball. This is very relevant because late round quarterback is ho hum as a strategy in best ball tournaments. So this is your favorite quarterback, Nick, going inside the top five at the position in Underdog ADP. Just right now on July 13th, as we record this, that's Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray. Of those five, considering ADP, considering upside, considering median projection, who's your top play?
Yeah, mine is going to be, because I already know what yours is, so I'm not going to steal yours. It will be Kyler Murray, quarterback of the Arizona Cardinals. I really think that Kyler Murray is going to step up this year. Last year, we saw him start off very strong. The whole team looked literally amazing at the beginning of the season, unstoppable. Obviously, we saw what happened at the end of the season. We saw what happened up against the Rams, but I think a lot of people are kind of weighing that too much into the equation, and that is kind of hurting Kyler Murray's ADP. I really think it is entirely possible that when the season comes to a close, that Kyler Murray is the number one quarterback on the season. Last year, he was quarterback number 4 in terms of points per game. And I think even without DeAndre Hopkins for the first 6 games of the season, we should still see Kyler Murray really step up and put up big numbers. Last year, he missed DeAndre Hopkins for the end of the season. This year, he'll miss him for the start of the season, but it's a little bit different this year because now they have Hollywood Brown. This is going to be a very solid offense yet again, and I am very confident saying that I think Kyler Murray, with the amount of rushing upside that he has, last year in just 14 games, he was top 5 in carries, rushing yards, as well as rushing touchdowns. If he plays every single game on the season, there is no reason why he couldn't be number 1 in all of those categories. So I love Kyler Murray this season, and I expect big things yet again.
Obviously, we're splitting hairs at this point. They're all top 5 quarterbacks. Kyler Murray is so far from undraftable for me, but you said I have a favorite, and I absolutely do, especially considering ADP. It's Baltimore's Lamar Jackson. And all that rushing upside you just described for Kyler, I think Lamar Jackson is the reason that Kyler can't finish number 1. Obviously, health is a concern for every player, particularly quarterbacks who like to escape outside the pockets. But Lamar was number 2 in the NFL in total carries, despite his injuries last year at the quarterback position. Number 1 in carries per game. In red zone carries per game, he was actually just 6th, so they actually tampered down his usage inside the 20, and that led to just 2 total rushing touchdowns. He still had 63.9 yards per game on the ground, and not to mention the fact that the advanced analytics show that he was at or better than league average under pressure, in a clean pocket, in deep balls, in deep ball accuracy rating on playerprofiler.com. He was 14th in the NFL. In true completion percentage, he's a little bit lower, but it ends up being 8 yards per attempt. That's plenty good as a passer. So get these arguments out of here that he's an inefficient or unavailable passer downfield. Just because he has escapability and scramble ability does not mean he can't also have pass ability. He has both. He was 6th in expected points per game last year. I expect that to rise with more health. And I think number 1 in fantasy points per game is very, very much, once again, in the range of outcomes for Jackson.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Lamar Jackson is one of my favorite players going inside the top 5 at the quarterback position, and I already have drafted him a million times. I love stacking him with Mark Andrews, or maybe even going a little bit deep, going with Bateman or one of those other options, because if you want to go with the number 2 receiver in Baltimore, no one really even knows who that is. So you can just draft them with like your last pick, James Prochet, Devin Duvernay. So I really like the upside of Lamar Jackson this year. And just like you said, there's a lot of people that make fun of him because, oh, he's a running back, blah, blah, blah. He's actually a much better passer than people really do give him credit for.
Yep. Yep. Well said. Now we move on to the slightly larger pool, the top 12 quarterbacks. I do want to give one general rule for top 5 quarterback drafting in best ball tournaments. Pick 50. That's the rule. Around pick 50, if any of these players are available, get them on your radar. They should not be available. They should be on a team. I'll say it that way by
Yeah.
pick 70. So at pick 50, take stock of those top 5. And then if they get drafted early, fine. Take the value elsewhere, like this pool of the top 12. I mean, we have some superstars in here. Not only Tom Brady coming back from retirement #1, but Russell Wilson on his new team, Trey Lance on his new offense, if you will. Jalen Hurts has tons of upside. Joe Burrow, 2 amazing receivers in Cincinnati. Who is your favorite? Again, considering ADP, upside, and the fact that we're playing best ball.
Yeah, I think there's one obvious answer, so I'm going to kind of deviate from the obvious, and I'm going to go with Trey Lance, quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. Right now, Trey Lance is currently coming off the board as the quarterback 9, kind of moving up in ADP, right? A couple of weeks ago, he's around quarterback 11, quarterback 12. People are starting to really realize that Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to be there. There's a lot of talks about maybe him going to Seattle, but even if Jimmy Garoppolo is still on the team in September, Trey Lance is going to be the guy. Now, if you look at Trey Lance's numbers from last year, they're not going to make your eyes just be like, oh, wow, I need to draft Trey Lance, right? When you watch the game, even, you're not going to think, you know what, I need to draft Trey Lance. But what you're drafting is a guy that could be like Kyler Murray, could be like Lamar Jackson, could be like Jalen Hurts, but at a discount and a significant discount at that. Trey Lance is coming at pick 79.2. I really think that Trey Lance this year has some solid weapons around him. I think Kyle Shanahan is smart enough to realize that, hey, we want to utilize the kid's skills, what he does best, right? They're not going to have Trey Lance fucking airing it out like Patrick Mahomes. They're going to keep it safe for Trey Lance. I think Trey Lance, in his, not his rookie year, but really his first year of actually getting a go at it, I think he could step up big time and finish in the top 5. And he is right now, like I said, the quarterback 9 off the board.
Yeah, I think when you're going for rushing upside, a player like Trey Lance makes all the sense in the world as a speculative pick. Obviously, there are downsides to taking a player like Lance. We just haven't seen a huge sample size. But to say that players like him don't break out in year 1 would be a huge miscalculation. And rushing upside, the Konami code of the quarterback position, is going to really help you when passing efficiency, as it often does for rookie quarterbacks, tends to waver. I'm actually going to go with a pretty immobile quarterback as my favorite in the top 12. And I think we're actually underrating just how good Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford were last year. We kind of feel like the fantasy football community at large is just saying that, yeah, teams are going to watch more film and figure this out. But we're talking about a team that was number 3 in passing yards, number 4 in air yards. Stafford was 2nd in the NFL in passing TDs and expected fantasy points per game. Among all those rushing quarterbacks, Stafford was 4th in the NFL last year, 4th in total QBR. From an efficiency standpoint, we saw him take the leap that we always felt his talent could get him to, but the coaching of McVay and the rest of the offensive staff, and of course the skill set of receivers like Cooper Kupp, really pushed him over the edge. His touchdown rate, his touchdowns per drive was higher than it's ever been last year. And maybe at quarterback 12, we're actually underrating how good this offense can be, especially with Allen Robinson coming over. I know Odell Beckham not being there is kind of frustrating because it felt like he had just started carving out a role. I've talked in previous shows about how I'm all over Allen Robinson in the 4th and 5th round of best ball drafts because I believe that the touchdown rate and the quality of play could be exactly as good as it was last year. Not to say it's the most likely thing, but again, we're talking about quarterback 12, about pick 100 in your best ball drafts. And from a stackability standpoint, yes, Cooper Kupp is tough, but from there, you can actually get a ton of Stafford's players pretty cheap in drafts, including that wide receiver too, which is going to have a ton of value this year.
Yeah, I like Matt Stafford a ton as well right now on Underdog. He is my 4th highest owned quarterback right now through 36 drafts that I've done. So I like Matthew Stafford a ton as well. And for a lot of the reasons that you outlined, it is very easy to stack Matthew Stafford. And it seems like Matthew Stafford should be ranked higher. Now, at the end of the day, I also am someone who isn't ranking Matthew Stafford as like a top 6 quarterback, but could he finish there? I definitely believe so. this team is going to be throwing the ball a bunch. They do have Cam Akers coming back, so I think they are going to try to commit to the run at least a little bit more than at
Mhm.
points of last season, because the running back room there was very dicey after Cam Akers got hurt. We saw Sony Michel, just the shell of that guy, absolutely have a great some solid games there. So I think Matthew Stafford at the end of the day is very good. And it's pretty easy to rely on a quarterback when they have a wide receiver with the skill set of Cooper Kupp, where you can basically just say, fuck it, Cooper Kupp's out there somewhere, heave the ball down the field, and then Cooper Kupp's going to catch it. So I like Matthew Stafford a bunch as well. And my favorite player to stack with him right now is Tyler Higbee because of how late he goes.
Yeah, yeah. In our stochastic best ball package, Higby is a clear value on Underdog. Speaking of which, Underdog is the sponsor of today's show. We've mentioned their ADP throughout the show. If you guys haven't gotten over there and started playing best ball, what are you waiting for? They have so many tournaments and with great prizes up top, but they also have great entry points. So if you don't want to pay $25 to get into a tournament, yeah, the downside is that the top prizes are a little bit lower, but I'm talking a little bit lower. These puppy tournaments that have been pumping out all summer have huge 5-figure prizes up top. And when you use promo code AWESEMO, you can get up to a $100 first match deposit bonus. So when you put in 100, they'll give you 100 back. That is 20 free entries to the Puppy 2 tournament. That $5 entry point is huge. And it's one of the best ways to get prepared if you have one big home league or anything like that. But honestly, guys, the best way to win over there, it's really simple. Use promo code PUPPY to pick up 1 week's access to the Stochastic Best Ball package. Not only do you get our fantasy football rankings, everything like that, everything you're used to, you will also get our best ball rankings. We have tournament rankings for Underdog, cash rankings for Underdog. We've got you covered for all the other platforms, drafters, DraftKings as well. You get access to all of those things. Our expert consensus rankings, you can see how I feel about certain players, how Nick feels. You get our exact rankings. Our buddy Matt Kajeski also has his rankings for Underdog up right now. A ton of value, again, for just $1 when you head over to stochastic.com/best-ball and use promo code PUPPY to sign up for a 1-week pass. Guys, $1 for that much value. It's a no-brainer. Underdog and Stochastic, a partnership like no other. Okay, let's move into the quarterback 2 range. Obviously, we believe that you should have one of these top 11, 12 quarterbacks in a best ball draft. We've been talking about that all summer long, but inevitably, you're going to end up with 1, 2, or maybe even 3 of these players in the 12 through 32 range. We're going to go a little bit more rapid fire. Let's talk about everyone's favorite topic in best ball, stacking. Let's talk about a quarterback you believe has sneaky stacking upside here in 2022, Nick.
All right, we are going to go with probably someone who most people wouldn't think about. That's going to be Mr. Famous Jameis Eat-a-W Winston with the New Orleans Saints wide
That was
receiver
my
core.
answer. That is, no, go for it. That's a great spot. Go for it.
Yeah, so I think with Jameis Winston right now, you're getting him at an immense discount. We saw last year, he actually looked pretty solid, right? We all know Jameis Winston is prone to turning the ball over, but he didn't look bad last year by any means. And I actually think that if he played the whole season, there's potential that maybe he sneaked his way into the top 12. And the wide receiver core in New Orleans right now is dirt cheap. It is actually insane how easy it is to stack him, even if you were going for one of those crazy bigger stacks, because Michael Thomas, ADP wide receiver 81, not wide receiver 81, pick 81, wide receiver 39, Chris Olave, wide receiver 46, Jarvis Landry, wide receiver 59. The ADP of all of these players is very high. It is very easy to go ahead and just draft all of these guys and create some type of a super stack. Now, again, I have moved down on Michael Thomas. I was very confident a few months ago on Michael Thomas. Now I'm thinking, oh, is he even going to play? Because we all know what the hell is going to happen with Michael Thomas. Actually, we have no idea what's going to happen with Michael Thomas. So that makes it even worse. But at the end of the day, I think Jarvis Landry and Chris Olave are great options. And I think Jameis Winston is a very underrated player who could finish inside the top 12 this year. And with the stacking upside you get, I think it's a no-brainer to take Jameis Winston in the later rounds.
Yeah, the ADP is right. The ADP for all of these receivers is so low at this point that it doesn't really matter if you're just taking shots. And I end up with a lot of underdog teams where my secondary stack ends up being the New Orleans Saints. You tie yourself sort of to the NFC South, where you get games against the Buccaneers, theoretically against Carolina, that doesn't have a necessarily great defense. But here's the big thing for me: the receiving core is so much more talented than it was last year. We know that Alvin Kamara's availability is in flux due to the possibility of a suspension. But after that, last year, Winston was throwing to some combination of Marquez Callaway, Deontay Hardy, Traquan Smith, and Adam Troutman. Bring in Chris Olave, get Michael Thomas back, get Jarvis Landry, who also, by the way, was injured last year, back in the fold. That is a significant upgrade in the receiving core if that group can get and stay healthy. That's why I really like Jameis when I'm adding wide receivers, and their value is very good according to our stochastic best ball package. So that makes all the sense for me. Jameis is our favorite in that sneaky stacking upside category. Next, I'll shoot it over to you for a standalone value quarterback. Maybe one that rushes more, maybe one that has sneaky 35 to 45 touchdown upside outside the top 12 quarterbacks. Who would that be?
Yeah, that's going to be Danny Dimes. Now, I don't really like Daniel Jones that much because we all know that Daniel Jones fumbles the ball. He just turns the fucking ball over, right? Like it's his job. He loves doing it. But if there was ever a year where everything connected, all the lines kind of pointed towards something, it would be this year. They get rid of Joe Judge, who was a certified bozo last year. They bring in Brian Daboll, who obviously Daniel Jones isn't going to turn into Josh Allen like I'm sure the Giants fans are hoping for. But I do think that Daniel Jones is going to be a lot better in this system, especially if Saquon Barkley is able to stay healthy. I think that's going to help out Daniel Jones a ton. And the wide receiver core this year just has to be better than last year. Kadarius Toney and Kenny Galladay combined for a grand total of 0 touchdowns. That's just not going to happen this year. If it did, then, oh man, things are going to be very bad in New York. And Daniel Jones probably doesn't even play past 6 games, right? If they don't have a single touchdown combined between the two of them. I really think that Daniel Jones with the rushing upside is the perfect answer to this question. And it's also great because this isn't a redraft league. If I almost said Jameis Winston. If Daniel Jones has a really good game, you don't have to determine when to start him. So that's even better for me. So I love Daniel Jones. I think his upside on a weekly basis, we could see some games where he finishes inside the top 5. And if he looks a lot better like he did earlier on in his career, then maybe we see some top 3 games out of Daniel Jones.
I dig it. And I think there are some sort of cheating answers here because I think Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers, who are outside the top 12 in current ADP on Underdog, fit this mold fine. They're going to have standalone value because Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks in the league, regardless of the quality of his receiving core. And Derek Carr has an elite receiving core and tends to throw a ton. He was top 5 in the NFL in passing yards last year. But I'll give you one more answer here. Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill usually is picked because of his falling draft capital, or because you are taking him in a very cheap stack with a player like Treylon Burks or Robert Woods. But I think Ryan Tannehill has standalone value here. In carries per game, he was meh last year. He only had 3.2 carries per game, 19th. But in red zone carries, he was 8th in the NFL and had 7 total rushing touchdowns because of how they use Derrick Henry. There's a lot of misdirection used, so Tannehill tends to keep the ball, and we've seen this over the course of a couple years now. With the draft capital so low on Tannehill, especially compared to last year, and the efficiency still overall very high during his run in Tennessee, I think Tannehill has some really sneaky upside here, and he's going at an ADP of 184.2 right now. The quarterback 24. I really think that is some strong value, and I've seen him go even lower in drafts than that. So a strong team, a team that expects to be competing for a playoff berth, and maybe even going further than that. I think Tannehill's going to get in the end zone plenty, whether that's passing or rushing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to punt the quarterback position and you're looking to draft 2 guys at the end of the draft, I really think that Ryan Tannehill is a clear answer there. Like you said, last year in Tennessee, things didn't go all that great, right? Derrick Henry gets hurt. Obviously, they're this excellent team. They're going into the playoffs. They're thinking, oh, we can win the fucking Super Bowl. That doesn't end up happening. But Ryan Tannehill didn't have all that great of a year. Even without A.J. Brown this year, they bring in Treylon Burks. They bring in Robert Woods. Who knows how good Robert Woods will be coming off the injury, but I do still believe that Ryan Tannehill is a skilled enough player that quarterback 24 is a slap in the face for a guy that could be a top 12 quarterback and does have some sneaky rushing upside, like you mentioned. He always does that thing where he jumps in the end zone, holds the ball up, and then drops it. Shout out Ryan Tannehill.
Shout out to holding the ball just long enough to score a touchdown. The next category here, league winning potential and league losing downside. Yeah, this is boom bust, but with best ball, everything is bigger and better. League winning potential, league losing downside. When I say that, what is the quarterback in the 12 to 32 range you think of first?
Yeah, my answer would be Carson Wentz. He goes so late in the draft. We've seen Carson Wentz boom in his career. We've seen Carson Wentz look like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And then we've seen the Carson Wentz that looks like this guy has no idea that he's even playing football. If you've ever seen that Bird Box movie on Netflix where he has the thing that people have the handkerchief covering their eyes. That's what Carson
Yes.
Wentz looks like in the pocket half the fucking time, right? He has no idea what he's doing. But then there's other games where he looks really good. And I think in Washington with Terry McLaurin, with rookie Jahan Dotson, with the wide receiver weapons they have there, as well as some solid running backs and Logan Thomas if he's healthy, then we could really see Carson Wentz reinvigorate his career. Is it a lock to happen? No, right? He's coming off the board as quarterback 28. But I think if you're really down bad at quarterback, if you really waited, there's still enough upside with Carson Wentz, and he's not a guy. He's not Kyler Murray. He's not Lamar Jackson, but he does have some rushing upside, right? He's not a statue in the pocket. So I think Carson Wentz is very interesting where he's going. Again, I'm not going to claim he's going to be a top 12 quarterback. He could be a complete and utter bust, but where he is going, I like taking a shot on him if I'm going to go for maybe that 3 quarterback build, or if I just waited really long and I was like, you know what, I got Terry McLaurin. Let me go ahead and draft Carson Wentz, see if he's got a little bit of juice left in the tank.
You talk about an easy backdoor stack, right? You can get Jahan Dotson late, you can get Logan Thomas late, and suddenly you're like, well, maybe I should just get JD McKissick and Carson Wentz, and suddenly I have 10 expected targets from a team. Do we have high expectations for this team? Do we have high expectations for most of the NFC East? Unfortunately, no. Sorry, Eagles and Cowboys fans. Someone's got to win that division. I digress. I do think Carson Wentz makes a lot of sense here. It is a quarterback upgrade, in my opinion, in Washington, just not a
Definitely.
gigantic one. It's a skill position upgrade, I think, honestly, compared to the Colts. We'll see really how, Michael Pittman is good, but I think overall, from a skill set of secondary receivers, Wentz gets an upgrade, but from a coaching staff, he gets a downgrade. So it's kind of an interesting experiment here, especially with how high I am on players like Matt Ryan, but I actually am not going to answer Ryan for this one. I'm going to talk about Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson has yet again seen an improvement in his receiving core. People have high expectations for second year player Elijah Moore. And Garrett Wilson was highly coveted as a prospect coming out. It obviously gets first round draft capital here. Wilson with a little bit of sneaky rushing upside compared to some of the other quarterbacks in his draft class. Gets Brees Hall in the backfield as well. I think they're going to use him as a pass catcher plenty. Wilson with some sneaky rushing upside, and again, an ADP in the basement. Quarterback 23. For me, this is the quintessential boom bust play, right? Because this offense has very, very low expectations. And if it broke out and got, to the mid tier or even the upper part of the mid tier, people would kind of understand why it happened, right? Garrett Wilson hits. Elijah Moore takes the next step. Zach Wilson, fueled by whatever trysts he's working on currently, he will be fueled to better play on the field, and the Jets start to soar. Is that the most likely thing here? Yeah, no, it isn't, unfortunately. That's why his ADP is so low. But at quarterback 23 in these drafts, and especially when I'm trying to be unique with my stacking, Zach Wilson has some sneaky boom bust potential as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty interested as well in the MILF Hunter himself, Zach Wilson, later on in drafts, because, like you said, it makes sense why he would do good, right? Because of the wide receiver core there. They bring in Brees Hall, they have Michael Carter. The only thing that to me is scaring me about Zach Wilson is that maybe the fact that Saleh is a defensive minded head coach, maybe that really does stunt his growth early on in his career. And maybe we don't see Zach Wilson even get that fair of a chance in the NFL. I don't think that Saleh's a bad head coach. I just don't know if that's what you want for a young quarterback with a defensive minded head coach.
That's true. Yeah, the offensive minds that they bring in for Wilson, extremely, extremely important. I
Yes.
definitely agree there. All right, we've been so positive, so optimistic this whole time here. Now we got to talk about one quarterback from the top 20 in ADP that at their draft capital, their typical ADP, who are you not touching? One player who comes to mind that at ADP, you're an absolute no.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually kind of sad because I don't think I've even drafted this player once. I kind of really heavily preach on, don't just fade a guy completely because if I'm wrong on this, I'm going to look like a certified silly goose. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go ahead and say Justin Fields is that guy. I think Justin Fields is a talented player. I'm just not too sure the Chicago Bears really have that great of weapons. They just went ahead and traded for N'Keal Harry. Maybe N'Keal Harry is going to have this great career in Chicago, but right, they have Darnell Mooney. And then who else? Who else is he going to throw the ball to, right? They've got Cole Kmet. The options there, they've got Byron fucking Pringle. So, I mean, things
Velus
just aren't great.
Jones, you're not ready for
Yeah,
the 25-year-old breakout.
old
N'Keal
man
Harry's
Bailey.
going into his 4th year in the league, and he is younger than his teammate, Velus Jones.
That's hilarious. I didn't even know that. But Justin Fields, the thing with him, again, it's not that I don't think he's a good player. It's just this is the first year in a new system. The wide receiver core isn't that great. I just don't really see things going that well for Justin Fields. He does have some sneaky rushing upside, so maybe he does really surprise me this year. But if I'm being honest, he just didn't look all that great last year. So I'd rather just take the pass on Justin Fields. If he plays good, then it is what it is, right? I missed on him. And then next year I could be excited about him. But in his sophomore season, I just don't really see this crazy leap from what he did in his rookie season.
You took my answer once again. Justin
Oh,
Fields
sorry.
is the part of the quarter. Don't apologize. That means we are thinking about this the exact same way, and that's helpful to people as much as it is when we debate. So I think that right at this point in the quarterback rankings is where I start to diverge pretty seriously from ADP. After Derek Carr, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, you get to the speculative range of the quarterback position. We've already talked about some of our favorites. I mentioned Matt Ryan, Jameis Winston, Daniel Jones. Those are players I have ahead of Trevor Lawrence, Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. I'm excited to see their next steps. I hope it happens as a fan of both them, the players, and of the NFL. I'm excited for the possibility, but at draft costs, I'm not doing it. If he gets to quarterback 20 or 21, I'll absolutely consider it. Absolutely. But where he's going in drafts, quarterback 15, 16 off the board in several drafts here, that's too much upside consideration, even in an underdog tournament draft. For me, I'm going with more safety because I need stability at the quarterback position. Yes, having number 1 overall upside is nice, but a quarterback 20, I just need double-digit points consistently so that my stud flex players do their thing. Am I wrong?
No, I completely agree. And maybe I'm going to look like an idiot because I'm very high on Darnell Mooney, but I think at the same time, Darnell Mooney can really have a great season because he's the clear number 1 there, while at the same time, Justin Fields doesn't end up outperforming his ADP.
There you have it, guys. So here is how we're thinking about the quarterback position. Obviously, no player is undraftable. If you think they are going to have usable weeks at the quarterback position, quarterbacks score a lot of points when they're starting in the NFL, even the bad ones in fantasy football. So no player is undraftable, but these are some of our favorites and least favorites as we head into the depths of best ball draft season. This has been a whole lot of fun, Nick, breaking this one down. Follow him at Notorious FNTSY. You can follow me at Draftaholic. And guys, make sure to subscribe to the channel so that you always know what's going on when we're going live for our live best ball drafts. Use promo code OSMO when you sign up for Underdog. Use promo code PUPPY and get that $1 draft kit for a week. Guys, we got so much going on, so much exciting stuff on the Stochastic Best Ball channel. For Nick, I'm Matt. We'll see you guys next time.